All right, I am here with Natalie Waddington today. How you doing, Natalie?
Great, thank you. How are you doing?
I am doing just fine. We're going to talk to Natalie about her work, how the pandemic has affected her work, and just how it has changed her life in general. Because there seems like there was a lot of changes going on before this happened to your life, and now it seems like there's more that's been affecting it afterwards. So, so if you want to talk about your work a little bit, we'll just move on from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I was just finishing up my second year of grad school at Cranbrook Academy of Art. So what I was doing up until leaving the school was working on these large scale paintings that were about 8 to 10 feet tall. And they were all these very dense stories and allegories, depicting scenes of people and animals interacting in these like kind of psychologically charged scenarios that are like morally ambiguous, but there's a tension there between the characters where you feel like there's a type of violence perhaps, or at least just some sort of like aggression between things, but you can't exactly place really who is the perpetrator or who is the victim in the scenes. I'm kind of like leveling the like hierarchy of all of the characters in the scenes. So, and I was doing that before between people. I've always been interested in scenes that are kind of like, ambiguous in that way, where there's this like power dynamic going on. And it's like the most pregnant kind of potent moment in a tense interaction. But I started thinking more seriously about those kinds of interactions that we have with animals, because animals are in a unique position where they don't have the same type of agency to advocate and defend and represent themselves the way that humans do in interactions. And so there's a lot of projection that we place onto animals and nature, both like in our domesticated pets, but also just like in our understanding of the wild. We like ascribe values to nature as, majestic or all powerful, kind of, we ascribe these sorts of like sentiments to nature that nature doesn't have the power to like refute or kind of defend or like claim itself, right? And we do that with like our domesticated pets too. We like speak for them and we think we understand them, but there's always something kind of like elusive with animals because there's always kind of that barrier of understanding. And I think that that's the case even with other people's interactions, right? There's always kind of like this moment where you realize you don't fully understand that other person and the kind of like conflicts and slippages that take place in between those interactions. So all of the painted scenes kind of explore a story that sort of highlights that tension and that misunderstanding. And it's through different painting languages. So I have like really expressive moments of paint butting up against really flat, washy moments. And the paint can kind of like work to reinforce or complicate the reads of the things that are being painted. So like, talking about and exploring the way that paint can kind of like communicate the way we're experiencing those images in those scenes.
I've been a fan of your work obviously for quite some time, and to see your progression from these figurative moments of working, and now you're into like these stylized figures, and how the reactions. I think my favorite part about your paintings is when you're looking at your paintings, you can see the reactions like of the narratives that you're painting in the faces of each and every one of the figures, and like how they're all kind of reacting to themselves or reacting to one part of the painting, and like that one part doesn't really react to the rest of it, but like everyone's just kind of like one of my favorites ones is one of your more recent paintings is the one of the dogs giving birth, and like the little girl is just kind of like staring down like at like this very like you're like oh, like out of all people, this little girl is the most terrified of it. It's like, and you kind of think of why she would be terrified, and you put your own like kind of narrative and your feelings on that person in that painting. So like you have successfully transferred how I feel, how I think she should feel, by painting her the way you think she should feel. It's just, yeah, it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So I've really just enjoyed all of your work, and then just particularly how far it's come and the way it's been moving. So with that, you're in your second year of graduate school. You were planning on moving to Texas anyways, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You had also there was a class at Anderson Ranch you're supposed to take this summer as well, right? So you had some plans there. So how has this kind of all affected, like, not only like, do you feel like you lost part of your education by like not being able to continue on through to like your final thesis show? Do you think what your like Cranbrook has done, like, has it made you feel like, oh, this is okay because of what's happening, or do you feel like you've kind of like missed out on something?
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely like so many opportunities I missed out on with the school closing and with the virus. Yeah, so like, yeah, I can't do the Anderson Ranch class anymore, which sucks, but I'm taking an online Rhino workshop with them.
Oh, nice.
Which will be really cool, I think. And yeah, because Rhino is so intimidating, so that'll be interesting. And then I was going to take a class at Aramont, and that got pushed back, thankfully. So it's a ceramic class, so that's going to happen in the fall now. So thankfully that was just like pushed back. And then I was a candidate for a Berlin residency through the school, and that got canceled. So, and then, yeah, so it's like, it's one of those things, I think maybe a lot of people are feeling that, where it's like you have a plan and then that gets canceled, so then you have a backup plan and then that gets canceled, so then you have your third plan, and like every day is just like pivoting. Yep. I felt like that was like a couple of weeks of just like constant pivoting. It's like, okay, now what can I do? So yeah, that kind of sucked. And then when the school closed, yeah, it was like, oh my gosh, because there's so many things that Cranbrook does for its second years when they graduate to help them kind of like launch their careers, and all of those events got canceled. Like our graduate thesis show is pretty big deal, very exciting, and that obviously had to get moved online. And then the studio sales event is like an amazing opportunity to sell a lot of work and meet a lot of collectors. That got canceled. We had like a trip planned to New York, and I was going to meet a bunch of like artists that I admire and like do studio visits with them, and that got canceled. But I think Cranbrook has done an amazing job, because it's not like you can't blame Cranbrook for those things, right? It's a virus. Yeah. So they've actually done such a great job. So the thesis show is going online, which I don't know how many people look at online shows. I know like you get emails all the time from all these galleries that are like, hi, hope you're staying safe. Here's our like online viewing room. And you're like, I don't want to look at that. So I don't really know how many people are going to look at the online degree show, but I hope people, and it has moved on. That starts this Saturday, the 9th, and it runs for a week. And I've already gotten people reaching out to me about that. So that actually seems pretty promising. So I'm really grateful they did that, because actually that seems like it's really going to pull through in a good way for me.
Good.
So I think Cranbrook's done the best it can do. I'm really grateful for the way my school has handled this, for sure.
That's
it. Mm-hmm.
Have you made any other plans? Like, have they set you up like they would have, I guess, had you graduated, and like to make those connections in New York, or to do any of those other types of events that they were already planning? Have they like mentioned that they might be bringing you guys back, or like doing something like in lieu of, besides the online show? Or
Yeah, so there's talk of doing an in-person thesis exhibition next summer, so summer of 2021, okay, at a venue in Detroit. And that would be so amazing, because that would, yeah, I'd get to make a new body work. I mean, who knows where I'll be this time next year. So I'll get to show something that's really meaningful for me then in the future, and bring it up there and show it along with my peers, see what they've been up to for a year.
No,
it's actually kind of like cooler, I think.
It does seem kind of like, yeah, because I know I had just applied to grad school, and they actually they had just offered us a free third year, essentially, to like work in the studio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so yeah, it's nice to see that they're trying to do something. Yeah. So how have you been dealing personally with everything? Like, so professionally, your career and stuff like that, just kind of thrown up in the air. You've been tossed around and moved around, and it seems like they've been taking care of you. But like personally, how has this affected you? Like,
yeah, actually, I mean, I was kind of in a unique position because I was doing grad school long distance with my husband, who's been doing school down here in Texas. So getting to move down a little bit earlier and like start living with him again has actually been so lovely. So I'm actually like kind of really grateful for that, because I got to come down here and he found me a studio right away. One of his friends had a spare bedroom, and so I got to move into a studio like the week I got here and start working again. So I mean, my days are like, yeah, it's like I don't have a job, unfortunately, but it's kind of nice too, because my days are just filled with like working in that studio and then just getting to spend a lot of quality time with Brandon, who I haven't been able to live with in like 2 years now. So like the kind of slow and peaceful pace of our life has actually just been really nice for me in that way. So actually, yeah, moving down here in March, it was like really nice to spend time with him. And the food in Texas is really great. So like we've just been like getting a lot of like Grubhub deliveries and like eating a lot of barbecue, which is amazing. So it's actually been very peaceful, I would say. I'm definitely starting to miss other people and friends and family. So it's nice that things are opening up here too, because we're getting to start going out again and like hanging out with people 6 feet apart. But it's starting to feel like things are going back to normal. But the past 2 months have been like actually quite quiet and peaceful, which I think it was so important, because it was like everything was thrown up in the air, and I got to come to a place where I felt very like supported and stable to kind of reorganize everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Like it's amazing, because I've been talking to a lot of people, and like it seems like most people that have been in the most change have actually been dealing with this better, because it has been like this like slow kind of lull that has like allowed them to kind of recoup from their like most recent like just going back and forth and going like constantly. So like being able to kind of just have the time to sit down, like recoup, and then just kind of enjoy their surroundings has actually been good for most of them. So it's good to hear that, that's also working for you. So what like resources have you used that have kind of helped you get through everything?
Instagram for sure. Yeah, I'm on Instagram all the time. I found that like honestly, since this all happened, I've been able to participate in so many online things like this, the interiors that make us. It's like, oh my gosh, like almost every other day I'm just struck by a friend or someone I don't even know reaching out and saying, I'm doing this thing online, like, do you want to participate, or applying to open calls for online exhibitions. And it's like, I feel like I'm on Instagram all the time, but it's like, I'm sharing other people's work, they're sharing my work. Like people are really putting in a lot of effort to like support and enable each other right now. So it actually feels like, yeah, the Instagram community is such a big community that gives me so much support and makes me feel like I still exist as an artist, even like in this random place.
Yeah, the social media aspects have like really defined what community is, right? Like it's not just this like, oh, I have friends in this area and I only hang out with them, but like how we have all connected to each other kind of virtually throughout all of this too as well. And yeah, Instagram is been a
Yeah.
huge thing. I spend way too much time on my phone, but
But it's so admirable. I was so touched when you reached out to me that you were doing this, because I was like, oh my gosh, another amazing person doing stuff for others. It's like so heartwarming to see people like working and putting in time to promote other people. That's like the true spirit of art and art communities. And yeah, you see it really shine right now.
It's true. I mean, it's nice to see how everyone is kind of reacting to this and how they're reaching out to other people, not only to just like make sure everyone's okay, but also to kind of like how can we continue to create? How can we continue to support each other, and how can we all just help each other out in such a weird and negative world, like where you can't go outside and do certain things, or like people are just always angry about not being able to do what they used to be able to do. That like it's nice to see people kind of like reaching out and doing different things, even though I mean it's not necessarily what we want to do, but it's what we have to do to keep moving through this, to like it may not go back to normal, but like going back to like a different way of communicating, and actually like learning all these different ways to communicate and how to like record and report things, like and document just not just your work, but also like the process and like how everyone's going through things has been super interesting as well. So yeah,
Totally.
yeah,
yeah, that's great. That's so great. I've also been another resource that I find really fun right now is like I prescribe to the newsletters for a lot of art magazines, like Hyperallergic and Artform and whatnot. And so every day in the morning, I spend like an hour going through my inbox and just looking at all these like newsletters. And it's funny because there's no news, right? Like nothing's actually going on.
No.
Because there's just no shit, like, you know, so it's like what they're reporting on is these much more small events. And it's really kind of like, yeah, it's sweet because it's helped me feel like I'm still connected to what's going on in the art world, even as like the art world is having to change so dramatically right now.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, you know, how we kind of took the virtual world like as like kind of for granted. We're like, oh, I'm just gonna hop on and see what's going on and like scroll through things. Or now like you're like, oh, like that looks kind of interesting. Maybe I'm actually gonna click on it. Like,
I know.
oh, this was a good read. I'm glad I actually took the time to click and read. So like you might like change your source of news or like entertainment like as things like continue, like, and just in general, like how you appreciate different ways of gaining information too. So
that is so true. That is so true. Yeah, I've read way more articles and looked at way more websites than I would normally. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've looked at way more artists recently than I have ever done before, which is so awesome and fun. And like, it's nice to actually have the time to do that and not to just do like a quick browse and like, oh, I like this one piece this person does. And like, then you go like and look through their body of work and how it kind of like has progressed and changed over the years. And like, you're like, oh shit, like this person's actually really awesome. And it's nice to, I guess, create new interests in different things and people. So
totally.
Sweet. Well, thanks, Natalie, for talking to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Coming on. Yeah, and if you want to check out Natalie's work, you can follow her on Instagram, and as well as Facebook. No, not Facebook-ish. Website.
No, not Facebook. Sorry. Website. Yeah.
Yeah. And then yeah, just keep a lookout for her. And as we progress on here, we might be doing some live performances, and she might be doing it. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Andy. This was so much fun. Thank you. Okay.